interesting how things are different. It's interesting also to lead with the song playing. It's just like, wait a minute, that's not my rhythm. What are they doing? They took the these and thous out of the other one, right, too? I was expecting strengthens thee. Gives me strength. It threw me off, too. Good thing I wasn't leading that one. But anyway, I guess we got to switch our minds, as Shane puts it, from karaoke singing to our lesson. So I'll try to be a little more serious, even though I want to start with a story. It's the story of a climber. It tells of a mountain climber that decided to climb this challenging mountain all by himself. He began his adventure preparing for that. And now I got to understand, this mountain is not just any mountain. It's not the tallest mountain. It's just very challenging for climbers. Anybody that has done any climbing understands that some mountains, you do not do it without a rope. Right? Actually, some places that he needed to switch back and forth, he needed the rope to lean into and hang on and keep going. Not like the free solo people that climb crazy heights all by themselves. Nothing. Just this one, he needed a rope, so the guy prepared. But he decided to climb it alone. Maybe because he wanted all the glory for himself, pride. I'm just too good for this. I don't need you. But he started his climb. And he overestimated his speed because he thought, I'm going to get this done in these many hours, climb over here, done, and change, and I'm good. But he overestimated, so the night fell heavy. In the heights of the mountain, he couldn't see anything. He didn't plan for that. Or he did. He thought, well, it's going to be a full moon. I'll be okay even if it gets a little dark. What he didn't account for was the fact that it was not a clear night, or from somewhere, you know how the weather is. He's probably climbing somewhere in St. Louis, because within 10 minutes, he went from, hey, clear day, to, wow, it's going to snow tonight. We don't have mountains here that we can climb, right? We have bluffs, but no. Zero visibility. Is that what happened to him? Even the moon and the stars couldn't do anything because he was below those clouds that was covering everything. So as he was climbing, getting higher and higher, he felt things slipping. He knew it was coming. And there he went. He slipped. He couldn't grab anything. He's hanging on for dear life. Couldn't see anything because everything is pitch black. And in that moment of great fear, just feeling the gravity pulling him down, everything came to his mind. You hear about those experiences that life flashes before your eyes and time passes. And I realized I didn't put a timer on myself. We'll be here until 2 in the afternoon. I will do that now. He realizes that he's going to die, right? So life flashes before your eyes. 10 seconds, it's like an hour. He was thinking now about how close death was getting, when all of a sudden he feels the rope tied to his harness, yank him up, maybe a whiplash, some broken ribs, but he's not dead. He's hanging there knowing that it's the middle of the night, or early in the night, but dark, freezing, snowing because it's St. Louis. And while he's hanging there, with only the rope keeping him up, in that moment of stillness, he had no other choice but to scream, "Help me, God." So to his surprise, maybe he lived during the time of Moses, God answered. And he said to him, "What do you want me to do?" He said, "Save me, God. Do you really think I can save you?" "Oh, yes, I believe. Of course I believe you can." "Then cut the rope tied to your waist." There was a moment of silence. I guess the man was thinking. He decided to hold on to the rope with all his strength. To be continued. Before the story finishes, I'd like to show you the pattern that parallels what we do with our lives, right? There's a pattern of multiple steps. When we think we're self-sufficient, we can tackle this on our own. We see trouble up ahead and all around us. We can spot when it's coming. And then eventually, depending on where we are in the stages of our life, we ask for help. And then we choose to trust or not to trust the help that's offered. We're going to talk about each one of these points. There's a fifth one that I'll share with you before the to be continued. But the first one is that we think we are self-supporting, that we're self-sufficient, that we can do this on our own. We don't need anybody. I can climb it by myself. Let me tell you what the Bible says about that. So bear with me. If you have your Bible, I may go a little fast, but you're welcome because most of them are, well, actually this part, all of it is from Proverbs. So if you open to Proverbs, you get there fairly quick. Proverbs 12:15. It says, "The way of a fool seems right to him, but a wise man listens to advice." A few pages later in Proverbs 26, verse 12, says, "Do you see a man wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him." A couple of chapters later in 28, verse 26, it says, "He who trusts in himself is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom is kept safe." Now just one more in Proverbs 30, verse 32, it says, "If you have played the fool and exalted yourself, or if you have planned evil, clap your hand over your mouth." Proverbs is very harsh to those who think so highly of themselves, who think that they know it all, who think that they can climb their mountains in life on their own. I got it. I don't need anybody. The climber is exactly what he thought. I've trained. I know what I'm doing. I don't need anybody. Now, granted, there'll be things in life that you and only you are responsible for, that you have to be accountable for, that you have to do the job by yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. But even in those circumstances, you're not alone. There's those encouraging you. And if there's trouble, there's those who are there as backup that can help you. You don't climb on your own. And in that climb, and in the events that happen in our life, we can spot when things are not going quite the way we planned, can't we? The sensation of the hands slipping, you reach the point, if you ever climbed on anything and you grabbed on and then you realize, ooh, I don't have it. Anybody climbing people? As kids, you climbed on stuff and your parents said, don't do that. I have the scar to prove it. So I know the sensation of, oop, I'm not making it. Maybe you sympathize with this. You're moving something really heavy. You and somebody else are like, come on, I got it. And then you're moving and oh, it's going, put it down. Ever done that? Guys? You get more than, I got it. You're like, nope. It's just going through your fingers, right? And you know it's going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. You brace for impact, that TV is gone. Trying to get you to relate to that feeling. Because I imagine that's what the people of Israel realized. In Numbers 11, verse 1, it says that now the people complain about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord. Well, it didn't turn out pretty for them, because when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. In their case, you know the story of Israel fairly well, right? The ups and downs. I'm with God, I'm not. I'm with God, I'm with not. I'm getting, beaten up by the people around me. Please, God, help me. I'm all good and I do whatever I want. No, help me again. And so you see that pattern in the life of the people of God. I think the climber knew what was up ahead. Well, he knew when things were getting darker than he expected they were going to get, when it's a bright and sunny day, you realize you have another hour of brightness to do whatever you're doing in the yard. But whenever it's cloudy and raining, that hour is gone. That's probably what the climber realized. We have another instance here of Genesis 41:54. In Egypt, it says, "And the 7 years famine began, just as Joseph had said. There was a famine in all of the other lands, but in the whole land of Egypt there was food." Sometimes we don't see the magnitude. We know there's trouble coming. We know something is happening, but we don't understand the magnitude. I think people realize something is happening. We're gonna not have food for a little while. We've dealt with this before. That was not the case. But then when you get caught in those situations, that's when we ask for help. I'm wondering if my veterans in the audience, if you ever heard, I know I heard from veterans telling me that there are no atheists in foxholes. If you don't know what that means, it's whenever there are bullets flying over your head and you're there in the middle of the thick of the war, you quickly pray to somebody, you realize the seriousness, and you ask for help. Same thing happened with the people of God. Say, oops, we made a boo-boo, and God is not happy. So in verse 2 of Numbers 11, they say, "When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and fire came, and the fire died down." When the climber realized that there's absolutely nothing I can do. Where I'm at right now, I am injured. I'm hanging by the rope. The rope is the only thing holding me. I have to get out from here. So he did what he could, was to cry out to God. Genesis 41:55. When all Egypt began to feel the famine, the people cried to Pharaoh for food. Then Pharaoh told all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph and do all he tells you." He didn't say go to Joseph and get your food. He said go to Joseph and listen to him. He's going to tell you how to. You ask for help, he's going to tell you how to get out of this trouble. That's what happened with the climber. He was told. He asked God for help. God told him, cut the rope. Now, the fourth point, that's the challenging thing for us, is that we choose to trust or not to trust. I want you to picture this. You are, well, let me first read John 9, verses 6 and 7. In John 9 is the story of a blind man that comes to Jesus asking to be healed. Right? I don't know what people expected at that time when they realized the master was healing people, that they come to him and how things would happen. We have certain expectations, right? When we're trying to get things done, we expect things to happen a certain way. But imagine yourself being the blind man. You go up to Jesus and ask for him to heal you of your blindness. If you close your eyes for a second, and you're in the same situation of the blind man, you hear this. Wait a minute. You can open your eyes. Wait a minute. Did he just spit? And then you know how you can sense it. If you have your eyes closed, you can sense what people are kind of doing around you. I imagine the blind man could tell that, wait, he was right here as I'm talking to him. Now he's on the ground. What is he doing? He just spat, and he's on the ground now. And then he hears this. Making a little mud pile with it, right? And then all of a sudden you feel this. Wait a minute. I heard you spit. I hear you on the ground. You're rubbing something. Now you're rubbing on me? No, thank you. I'll stay blind. Jesus tells him, having said this, he spat on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, put on the man's eyes, Go, he told him, wash on the pool of Siloam. The word means sent. So the men went and washed and came home seeing. That's interesting, right? To think about it. He wanted something. Christ told him exactly how to get that something. Before he even told him to go wash, he said, no, here's some spit. Now think of the climber. I'm in this predicament where the rope is the only thing keeping me alive right now. You're telling me to cut it? You have a choice to make when you ask for help. Judas made a choice. Think about it. In Matthew 27, verse 5, it says that Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. Right? He betrayed Jesus. He is hanging by less than a rope. I would imagine that Judas knew exactly what kind of forgiving person Jesus was. I would imagine that Judas witnessed Christ forgive people for much worse things. He knew exactly what kind of help he could get, yet he made his choice of not taking hold of that help. He took matters in his own hands, and it didn't turn out pretty, did it? Let me spend a second thinking about when people choose to not listen or take the help that is offered. Have you ever experienced that? I know I have. When somebody's desperate about something and they come to you and you sit down, you spend your time and energy and money coming up with the proper way of getting them out of whatever they're in. You both agree that this is fantastic. This is what we need to do. But I'm going this way. Have you ever experienced that? Because if you haven't, I can tell you it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to have what the person needs right in front of them, laid out, planned out, and they choose to, no, I'm going to do my own thing. Then all you do is pray that they can get out of their situation. The climber chose to hang on to the rope. And with that said, I'm going to tell you the fifth point that I told you I was going to hold out for later, which is we get our reward. Jesus said that if a man wants praise from people, he'll get that reward, which is praise from people, and that's it. Whatever reward you are seeking, you get it. It's the end result of all these steps. The turns that life takes and how we choose to handle it, how we choose to ask for help from people around us. So let me tell you the story again. This time I will close the story. The story of a mountain climber, if you didn't hear about this story, it's brand new to you. He decided to climb this very challenging mountain. Very challenging. He actually so challenged that you had to do it with ropes. But he chose to do it by himself because he wanted all the glory for himself. The night felt heavy, and that he overestimated. And then it got dark. And then as it got dark, he slipped and fell. And as he was hanging there, realizing that there's nothing he could do for himself, he cried out to God. God told him exactly what to do. Cut the rope. He chose to hang on to that rope. Trying to see if I went faster than the video. That's him in trouble, realizing he's in trouble. Interesting that in the little story, God even double-checked, do you believe I can help you? I said, of course I do. Before I give you the final answer here, the final point of the story, Let me tell you, this story comes from before, social media memes and all of that. This comes from I don't know if you remember the forward phase of emails. You ever at work and you get 20 forwards a day or more? I'm not forwarding this, but if you don't, your soul is going to be taken from you. You got to send to 10 people. Okay, I'll send it. That's where it came from. I was like, well, they send it to me. Must be important, right? It says forward. That's where it came from. So I'm just a disclaimer. If somebody, hey, I know that story. Yeah, it's not mine. It was forwarded to me 20 years ago. I don't know. Sometime in the past. But he's there hanging, right? The story concludes the next day when the rescue team shows up to find the climber, dead, frozen, his body hanging from the rope, the hands holding tight to that rope, and they were really baffled, confused by why is he hanging on to that rope so tight when he's only a few feet away from the ground. Photoshop. Think about it. God knew exactly where he was. God knows exactly where you are. So when God offers you the help that you need, when he puts the people in your life, when people give the advice that you need, how attached are you to your rope? Now, there's a whole other lesson for us to try to figure out. That's a classroom lesson to figure out what are the ropes that we're hanging on to. I guess that's a homework for you. Because the final question I'll ask you is this: will you let go? For so many years, I always heard of the white knuckling on the pews. Ever heard of that? When we're offering the invitation and that person that truly needs God in their life, that truly needs whatever it is that's being offered, but they, like the climber, hang on to that pew so hard and your knuckles turn white because there's no way I'm going to go forward and admit that I couldn't climb this on my own. So let me ask you again, how attached are you to your rope? And so as a way of invitation, we always, say as we stand and sing the invitation song, what I'm going to ask you to do, or I'm going to ask you the question is, will you let go as we stand and sing the invitation song?